Blah, 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 blah. Hello, hikers. Green Giant here, one of your hosts. Hey, we've never made a bonus episode of Stories from the Trail before. This is pretty exciting. What do you think we're going to do? I'll tell you what we're going to do. I'm going to share something with you that I discovered recently that I think you are really going to enjoy. It's another podcast. It's called Travel for a Loop, and the host is Ryan Bedell. We don't have any kind of sponsorship arrangement or any kind of business agreement. This is just something that I discovered, which I really enjoy, and I truly believe that listeners of Stories from the Trail will also enjoy. Now, I'm not just a fan because Ryan asked me to be on his most recent episode of Travel for a Loop. Didn't hurt. But honestly, while I was researching his podcast to prepare for our interview, frankly, I just fell in love with his content. What Ryan does is he sets aside about an hour to have a conversation with a person who's had an interesting or unusual outdoor experience. For example, his first episode is about a guy who rollerbladed across the United States. Then he talked to a Playboy model who explored Iceland. One of his episodes is about a guy from Australia who flipped his Jeep in South America. He talks to some guy who hiked the Appalachian Trail and, well, I don't want to spoil too much of his story because that's what I want you to hear. This bonus episode is the second hour of our conversation. Ryan's show is 1 hour long, and after we finished, we continued rolling tape, and I interviewed him for a little bit. So this is the second half of our conversation, which means if you want to hear the first part, and believe me, you do, you should pick up your phone, unless it's still in your hand, or scroll down on your computer screen and find the links that I put in the show notes for Travel for a Loop. It's on Spotify, it's on Apple, iTunes, Stitcher, all the same places that our show is, so it should be real easy to find. You don't have to listen to his episode before listening to this. It's not like there's going to be spoilers or you'll be confused or anything, but unless you're a flip-flopper and you like doing things out of order, I highly recommend you listen to his first. We'll still be here when you get back.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, that's what keeps me daydreaming, thinking about that sort of thing.
Is that what you daydream about?
Yeah, I'm sitting here looking at fluorescent lights and white walls, and I think to myself, is this really me? It's a tough question to ask myself and to answer. Yeah. And I'm not trying to be all introspective about myself. I understand that it's in the context of your story, but I imagine a lot of people who listen can relate to that we put ourselves in sort of this box, and you took the box and tore it to shreds. and you are as well. I mean, you're daydreaming out loud by doing this podcast. Right now there's somebody on the subway or someone in Missouri washing dishes right now listening to this who also wishes that they were on the Appalachian Trail or rollerblading across Zimbabwe or whatever, Yeah. And you're taking those people there. You're not just daydreaming for yourself. Yeah, it's a nice way to put it. It makes me feel a little bit better about it, I guess. But
make those fluorescent lights a little cozier now.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the reason I asked that question at the beginning, and it's a really interesting question to me. Like, how do you come to do it, and where's the moment where you just decide to take the leap? And I am certain that someday I will get to that point. I'm not there yet, but I know that at some point, some sort of journey is in my future, and I don't have the passion that you have to sort of do one thing in particular. Like, I can't say, oh, I definitely want to go do the PCT, or I definitely want to go to the Appalachian Trail, or I have something where my mind is set. And yeah, I'll have to figure it out eventually. But I think it's a cool thing for you that it was something you had your heart set on for so long, and you made it happen. I mean, like you said, you come back and you have the depression of sort of being done with it. But at the same time, you set your mind to it and you did it. Like, congratulations are in order, even though it's a little weird for you to have people want to throw you parties.
Yeah, I mean, if I could travel back in time, I would definitely not talk myself out of this. Definitely glad I did it.
So, were there other ones that I cut you off from, big picture wise? You said humility was one.
Yeah, there was, there was. I'm sorry, I had something and I just lost it, and I hate when that happens.
No worries. If you get it back, great. If not, we'll leave people in suspense.
Yeah. The other big picture thing. Oh, I remember what it was too. Was about just like taking that first step, and turning that daydream into a reality. I remember what I was going to say now. One of the things that I learned from carrying around an incomplete plan for so many years, an unfinished dream, having a daydream or something on the back burner for that many years, is that there never really is a perfect time to take that first step. If you wait, or even, no matter how proactively you struggle to get the stars to align, they're not going to, there's never going to be a perfect time to start. So you might as well take your present conditions and adapt them as best you can to fit your plan, and then just start. My plan was off the rails 3 days before I even got to the trail. I mean, the whole point of something like that is to improvise. You kind of point north and go,
Yeah. I mean, and I think I said something along these lines earlier, but the best laid plans, no matter how hard you plan, you got to learn. It's a life skill. You got to learn to sort of adapt. And you just had that concept on steroids as you embarked on your journey. But it's just, I mean, life's going to throw stuff at everybody, right? And like you said, no better time than the present.
Yep. Your plan is going to go out the window at some point. So, the best thing you can do is just, be flexible. Be flexible.
At best, it becomes a loose framework, right?
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
I love it. Well, I have, I don't know if you've gotten a chance to listen to any other episodes, but what I do at the end, or towards the end of all my episodes, is obliterate the concept of storytelling and of sort of the dynamic we've created, and say, the floor is yours. Is there anything you want to say that is on this topic, not on this topic, but I'm handing you the microphone. Is there anything you want to say to people listening, period?
I do. And it falls under that umbrella of things you've probably heard a million times before. In fact, you just heard me say it a few minutes ago, and that's take the first step. Follow your dreams, take action on those plans. Something like the Appalachian Trail, for example. One of the things I learned was that you can't do the whole thing all at once, right? Like, you picture, if you're standing at Springer Mountain and you're picturing in your mind Katahdin, and then you look down at your feet, Katahdin is so far away. Why should I, you take that one step, you don't feel any closer. You take one more step, you still don't feel any closer, and every single day, if and you get those points where you start thinking on those levels, instead of, I'll just make it to the next mountain, or I'll make it to the next trail crossing, or I'll make it to that tree. You start thinking in terms of, I'll just take the next step. I'll just take the next step. And you start living in that moment, step to step to step. And those things are going to happen in our daily lives. And they're also going to happen in the pursuit of our dreams, whether that dream is literally a long distance hike, or something like writing a book, or learning to paint, or building a house, or tracing your genealogy, or any long-term goal that you stand at the start of and think about how big it is and how long it's going to take and how far into the future, how distant the completion of that dream seems. If you think about that, it's going to make you not want to take that first step. But if you do, you really are closer to that goal. You might not feel like it, but you really are. So just do that. Take that step, then take the next one, then take the next one. And just like a long distance hike, or just like writing a book, after 3 or 4 months, you'll have a mountain of words that forms, a terrible first manuscript, or, 96% of a hike, or a house that kind of leans to the left a little, or a painting that kind of looks like your mom, might be your cat. I don't know, but damn it, you tried, do something. Whatever you do, don't do nothing. That's what I want to say.
That, I don't know if that was rehearsed, my friend, but that's one of the best responses I've gotten to that question. That was excellent.
Thank you. I just improv'd that whole thing, and I believe like 60% of it too.
I love it. I love it. I mean, that's why the goals are big, right? I mean, you set big goals, and yes, they seem daunting, but it's so hard, I think, to think of your goals in terms of the incremental steps it takes to get there. It's just, it's almost like our brains aren't wired to do it. That's how much it takes you to sort of force yourself into that mindset. So personally, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, thank you.
I love it.
I'm glad for the chance.
Is there anything else you would like to say before I wrap things up here?
I don't think I can top that last one.
Perfect. In the meantime, everyone listening, make sure you check out Gary's book, Home is Forward, which will, I imagine, delve a bit deeper into some of these things that you've talked about.
So, yeah, that book is actually a collection of short stories that covers everything I did before the Appalachian Trail. And I think I might have forgot to include it in my bio, but Where's the Next Shelter is the story of the Appalachian Trail hike.
Perfect.
Sorry for interrupting.
No worries. Not at all. It's that's what we need to get out there. Home is Forward. And you said, where's the next trail?
Where's the next shelter?
Where's the next shelter? Excuse me. Where's the next shelter and Home is Forward are Gary's books. You guys should all check them out. Is there a place that they can find some of your work, your podcasts, your work with NPR, any of that stuff?
So if you want to see me in my underpants, if you Google Gary Sizer, or even if you Google Appalachian Trail hiker before and after, you'll get to see that. It's still one of the first things that comes up. GarySizer.com. GarySizer.com has all of the links to everything, all of my books, podcasts. If you want to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, it's all there. GarySizer.com.
I love it. Gary, thank you so much for coming on. Appreciate your story. Appreciate your insight.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. This has been a hoot.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. Everyone listening, thank you as always for listening. Episode 17, not yet lined up, but as always, I'll have something ready to go in a week. So thanks for listening. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and we actually have a little bit of a giveaway going away right now, which is new. But if you like our Facebook page and share our post that has a record, I'm giving away a signed record by the Raveonettes. So,
oh, no kidding.
Yeah, it's I can't remember what the name of the album is off the top of my head. But I can look it up here because why not, right? We got the time.
That's so weird that you would say. I have a hand-drawn poster of the Raveonettes that a graphic designer friend of mine made, and we have it framed.
That's awesome.
From one of their concerts in the early 2000s.
I love the album.
I didn't think anyone else knew who that was.
Yeah, I mean, they're not the biggest thing ever, but they're pretty awesome. The album's great. It's Observator is the name of the album I've got. And I'm sad to part with it, but at the same time, I figured a signed album might get some people some traffic to the page, so I'm parting with it. But
is it? Can I add something to the prize bag?
Sure,
yeah,
by all means.
Can I put in a signed copy of my Appalachian Trail book?
Absolutely, that sounds great. So if you heard it here first. A signed copy of the Appalachian Trail book. Thank you, Gary. And a signed Raveonettes Observator album if you like the Facebook page and share the post. That's incredible, Gary. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone, for listening, and I will catch you on the next one. Done.
Awesome.
Thank you, Gary.
That was fun.
Dude, I used to intern at NPR in college. That's what got me into this sort of idea in the first place. And I get to talk to so many cool people, man. Your story is incredible. And we just hooked up on Reddit. What a random and awesome turn of events.
Yeah.
I do really, really appreciate it, man.
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah, Reddit can be hit or miss.
Yeah. You find some weird, dark shit on there, but a lot of good stuff too.
Yeah. I've lined up a couple of guests through Reddit for our show as well, and I'd say 99% of the time it's gone great. We had one that didn't turn out so hot, but
well, this new subreddit is interesting. The whole purpose seems to be finding guests. So I've had a couple people reach out, and I sent sort of that information email, and you're the only person that's gotten back. So.
Oh, wow. Interesting. There's anyone who hasn't responded doesn't know what they're missing out on.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I wanted to make sure we left some time for anything you wanted to get done. You said you wanted to do some sort of recording of something, or?
Well, yeah, and I've been rolling tape on my side here this whole time too. So, I figure I'll probably just share the audio from that as a bonus episode for our listeners.
Perfect.
And we might as well take a few minutes to talk about you, because we've been talking about me for a while.
Sure.
Yeah. So I did have a chance to listen to a couple of your shows before we talked. 15,
Thank you.
15 and 16.
Okay.
Laura, what is it? Zolch rhymes with mulch.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, that one. I got about halfway through that one, and I ran out of time. But the Australian fellow who flipped his Jeep in South America was pretty amazing as well. And I just wanted to tell you, well done, sir.
Thank you.
I'm not surprised to hear that you have experience in broadcast, especially with NPR, because you've got. Do people tell you you've got a great voice all the time? Do you hear that often?
I've heard it once or twice before. It's a new thing to use it for this sort of thing. I always wanted to be a musician, and I wanted to sing. And I gotta say, I was not necessarily blessed with those talents. So it's nice to hear that my voice functions well in other spheres.
Well, you've got stage presence and confidence down, so you've got that going for you as well. And you've got a webcam turned on. I can see your face. You've got a good shot at YouTube as well.
Yeah, I mean, right now I'm looking a little haggard. It's the end of a work day. I got the beard completely untrimmed. So it's nice of you to say that. Maybe at some point, if I clean myself up a little bit, I'll be a little bit more ready for that gig.
Yeah, I literally woke up from a nap like 20 minutes before our call and just kind of like rolled into the studio.
I hear that. It was quite a day at work, and I was thinking, it's about 4:45, and I'm thinking to myself, it's just one of those days where I'm not necessarily in the mood to record, and I sort of had to get myself in the headspace. And I enjoy it so much that I feel so much better. Like I was coming out of work not in a good mood, and now I'm just like, I got a smile on my face. It's good. So
yeah,
thank you for that as well.
It does make a difference. Yeah, we record our show. We do a live hangout on Discord on Wednesday nights.
Okay.
And
what time on Wednesday nights?
7 p.m.
Okay.
And I mean, if you're interested in coming and just listening in or hanging out or even being a guest sometime, I would be happy to have you.
Sounds great, man. I love it all. I'm trying to get involved in this sort of world as much as I can,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we started. I think we started. I said I did want to talk about me, but
please do. I mean, it's interesting to me. I hope that your listeners find it interesting as well.
Our listeners already know all this. We started a couple years ago and just recently added the Discord component about a year ago next month.
Okay.
So, we have a small live stream, and then we take that recording, I edit it into a more presentable format, and that's the podcast.
I mean, it sure makes for some spontaneity to do it live. That's for sure.
It does. It really it makes for a lot of fun. That's for sure. A lot of surprises. Yeah. But I'm curious to know about you. And so we know you have a little bit of broadcast experience. So podcasting kind of comes easily, at least maybe not easily, naturally. It
was a while ago. Yeah. I interned with NPR 2013, the Chicago NPR affiliate. I shouldn't say NPR proper. It was WBEZ and Vocalo Public Radio off of Navy Pier in Chicago. But
I recognize the call letters, but I can't say which shows are BEZ produced. It's not Ira Glass, is it?
It is.
Is it?
It is.
Okay.
Nowadays, I honestly have no idea what they're doing. I don't listen to it as much as I should be, having come from there, I guess. But I actually gravitated more. So I worked for my college radio station, and that's how I got the sort of the in with that internship in the first place, and always sort of gravitated a little bit more towards that. I had more freedom on my show with the college radio station and with the public radio station side, Vocalo, that shared sort of the studio with WBEZ and sort of they were just in the same office next to each other, and they sort of helped each other out, that sort of thing. But I gravitated more towards having more freedom on my show. I got to play what music I wanted. I got to say what I wanted and not really have to worry about somebody sort of looking over my shoulder. I loved what I did with the NPR stuff, but it was more sound editing and sort of sitting on the soundboard than it was sort of me being able to produce my own stuff. And that's what I enjoyed.
Yeah, I can relate to that too. I weirdly enjoy that aspect of this as well.
Yeah, I mean it is a creative outlet, and granted, sometimes I can't shut my mouth, but it's supposed to be a medium for other people's stories, but it still feels creative in that I have brought it into being. Like it feels like mine, even though a lot of times it's just me sort of letting other people do their thing. I don't know. It's kind of hard for me to think about it in that way, I guess. But it's something that makes me feel creative at the very least.
well done.
Thanks.
I want to know more about your relationship to the outdoors.
Sure. So I sort of had a weird trajectory out of college. I mean, growing up in Missouri, I was in St. Louis, so it was definitely a little bit more urban, but we took our we call it a float trip. I don't know if other people call it that, but when you sort of just have a raft and float down a river, and we had river trips, we had lake trips to the Lake of the Ozarks, we had hiking stuff and all the Boy Scouts stuff I did as a kid. And that was sort of the first forays into outdoor stuff. But as I got older, I gravitated way more towards sort of being more reclusive isn't the right word, but sort of an indoor person, like I got into video games and I got into the computer and that sort of thing. And it didn't really come back to me enjoying the outdoors until I got to college.
You were an avid indoorsman.
Yeah. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, that's hilarious. An avid indoorsman. I might steal that off of you.
Take it.
That's
it's
hilarious.
It's yours.
Oh, that's too funny. Yeah, I was an avid indoorsman for quite a while. And then when I got to college, I sort of started to enjoy the outdoors a little bit more. I think partially because, so I went to school in Chicago and I'd never lived somewhere so urban before. I had lived near urban stuff in St. Louis, but it's a much smaller Midwestern city. And going to Chicago, I loved it. I live in New York now. I love living in the city, but you start to crave the outdoors and the quiet more when you can't get it,
Oh yeah, for sure.
And it sort of came back into my life. I was taking weekend trips or trying to get away into Wisconsin or do whatever I could do to sort of have that green time, even if it was just going to one of the parks in the city and sitting outside on a lunch break or something like that. I just started to need it more,
Yeah.
And that sort of transitioned into life post-college. I moved to South Korea and was living on an island called Jeju Island, which is a volcanic island, often described as the honeymoon destination of Asia.
Ooh.
And I will never live somewhere more beautiful in my entire life. And I did more hiking and beaching and just outdoor stuff in the course of that year in South Korea than I think I've done in the rest of my life combined. It was a paradise, to say the least.
That whole part of the world is just so special.
It was, honestly, I can't describe it. It was unlike anywhere. I've been very fortunate. I've been to 41 maybe, something like that, countries now. And each one's a little different, and there is no comparison to Jeju Island, South Korea at all. It is just stunningly beautiful. And I've never been to Hawaii, so I wouldn't know. I have heard people compare it to that, but it's just sort of it's a paradise.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Southeast Asia, you look at things that you can't believe you're actually on Earth anymore. Like you look at it and you just can't. It's not real. It's just
alien is a word I have used.
Yes.
It's a good way to put it. It's just I don't know. It's I could go on about that place forever. There, New Zealand and Iceland are the three where I thought to myself, man, this is alien. It's unlike anything I've ever seen before.
For sure. Yeah. Iceland is pretty amazing.
Yeah. It's like almost like going through a Dr. Seuss book sometimes.
Ooh, yeah.
It's very, I don't know, like you see formations you didn't know could exist on Earth. You see the sort of the mountains meeting the sea with the glaciers and the ice caps and I don't know. It's
like the cover to a Yes album everywhere you look.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. My friend and I who traveled there a few years ago, by the end of the week, we were suffering from what we called amazement fatigue.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Like
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Could not muster the energy to say wow again. Like, another thing. I'm going home.
I would go back there in a heartbeat.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm generally the sort of person who likes to try new things and likes to go to new places and sort of broaden my experience as much as I can. I would go back to Iceland in a heartbeat. I wouldn't even think twice about it.
What time of year were you there?
I was there, and actually I do want to go back because I want to see the Northern Lights. I was there in March and was told that I was there at the prime season for seeing the Northern Lights. And I'm convinced that this is just something that they tell tourists, but I got there the first night. I land in the airport and I'm talking to the immigration officer and he says, oh yeah, the Northern Lights last night were the best they've been all year, the best of the whole season. And of course they did. It was cloud cover for the entire 10 days I was there. So
damn it.
But
I won't rub it in, but they are pretty amazing.
So I hear. Yeah. So I hear. And I could feasibly go somewhere else and try and see them too. But I'm sort of endeared to Iceland in a way. It was only 10 days and I was living in Rome at the time. So I didn't have to go too terribly far. And I went by myself. I slept in a car for the whole 10 days. And
that sounds fun.
It was great. I loved it. I crave that sort of isolation, which is a weird word to say, but that's what it was. Mm-hmm. Like I can remember spans of, I don't know, 6-8 hours where I was just sort of so out there that I didn't see another car for that long. And you start to get in your own head and you start to sort of, I don't know, just think. You start to sort of think about everything. I started thinking to myself, I could die out here, as I'm sure you might on a 6-month trail out there by yourself. I start to think to myself, I could die out here and people might not find me for a few hours. My car breaks down. What am I going to do? And you start to sort of just have these weird introspective and weird mortality moments where I want to go do it again. I don't know. I just felt like I learned a lot about myself. Does that make any sense, or am I just rambling at this point?
Totally on board. I get it. Yep, 100%.
It's a weird craving, and I think it's the first time I've said that out loud because it sounds a little crazy. In my head?
Have you read any Edward Abbey books?
I have not. No, I've never even heard of them.
Edward Abbey. Maybe start with Desert Solitaire.
Okay, I'll write this in my phone right now. If that's all right.
Yeah. It's a book about one guy. He was a ranger. He was a national park ranger when he wrote this book, and it's about his time in Arches National Park.
Also really beautiful.
Yeah, and he's the only character in this book, and it's amazing.
All right, Desert Solitaire.
Desert Solitaire. Yeah, I think it was written in the 60s, and Edward Abbey's kind of a controversial figure. He is at the center of what a lot of people call the eco-terrorism movement.
Okay.
Yeah, like his book, The Monkey Wrench Gang, is about a group of hippies who, like prevented urban sprawl by doing things like taking chainsaws to billboards and like that kind of thing. Like that's what his fiction tends to go in that direction, but that's fiction. His real,
that's exactly what I was going to say.
His real works are philosophical, bordering on poetic. And you'll lose yourself in desert landscapes that don't exist anymore because we've paved them. So, yeah, Edward Abbey. If you're into that whole solitude thing, that's a good place to start.
I very much am. I will have to look into that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Yeah, that's kind of it. That's where I stand with sort of the nature background right now. But I've been feeling it recently here in New York. They say the concrete jungle, and it very much is. I mean, there's very little nature time for me right now.
Yeah, it's hard to find.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess I could go sit in Central Park, but even then you hear the hum of the cars and the horns. And
got to get so far away to lose that. Yeah.
Yeah, true. I'm going out to Denver in a few weeks, which I'm pretty excited for. My sister lives out in Denver, so get my hiking in then.
Will you be spending much time there?
I'm there 6-7 days, something like that. So I got a decent amount of time, but I'm going to see my sister and her husband more than anything. So I would imagine we'll be doing some shorter hikes while they're at work during the day, and then spending the rest of the time with them, as much as I would like to go do a couple-day hike or something along those lines.
I'm trying to think. I'm not super familiar with the area. How close is that to Golden?
Honestly, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm sure she would know. The two of them and their dog are hiking constantly. They keep my my wanderlust active because they are constantly hiking, constantly seeing new things and doing stuff around that area. And the nice thing about Denver and the surrounding areas is, yeah, you've got the city, sure, but there's no shortage of places to be checking out. I think they have realized quickly that they could stay in Denver for the rest of their lives and never run out of new hikes and new places around there to see. I love it. Well, thank you. I appreciate you taking the interest in it.
Yeah, my pleasure. And since we're still rolling, for our listeners, tell us a little bit about your show, what it's called, and what they can expect if people want to listen.
Sure. So Travel for a Loop is the name. And I think the most frequent question I get is why that name? And I'm going to come out here and go bold and say it is a stupid name. I don't necessarily like it. My thinking at the time, if I can even bring myself back to that headspace, was that like if you throw someone for a loop, you are like, it's like, I don't know, like when you throw someone for a loop, right?
It's like getting tackled on top of a mountain by the wind.
Exactly. It's something unexpected. Yeah. Like it's just something, and I'm like, oh, like that's cool. You travel for a loop. And at the time I was all about it. I was like, this is super cool. I'm so clever. Great idea. And at some point, I think before I even started recording, I was like, God, that is so dumb.
It's not, though. I like it.
But it has become a thing now, and it is the podcast, and I am embracing it. So despite its dumbness, I will say I do love it. So
you've got your focus keyword in the first paragraph.
There you go.
You know,
so
and
for a loop is what it is, for better or for worse.
Yeah, it doesn't have a "the" in the title, which would get you lost in podcast hell.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. And it makes it easy for tagging it on all of my various places. It's just travel loop. You hashtag those, you're good.
There's no question at all what it's about.
Exactly. It is about traveling, in case anyone was wondering, because it's not obvious enough from that title. But
and you've had some pretty cool guests on too.
It's been awesome. I've been so lucky. I just have people come on and tell me stories. They bill it as the genre storyteller, I guess. But I've had funny stories. I've had sad stories. I've had profound stories. I've had stories where my palms sweat like yours. But more than anything, it's just been fun getting to hear from people from different walks of life. And that's really kind of been the name of the game for me. I'm trying to get people with unique, diverse experience, and it has been a blast. So I've had ultra marathoners. I have had a Haitian refugee, a Broadway actress. I've been very fortunate to get people from coming all over the place. And honestly, there's nobody having more fun with it than me. And I don't know if narcissism is the right word, but I enjoy listening to my own episodes because I like reliving other people's stories. So
there's nothing wrong with that. If you were a musician and you listened to your album while you were driving to the grocery store, that's acceptable, right?
Sometimes you just gotta hear yourself back too to reassure yourself you didn't say anything too stupid. So
and that if you did, it'll be okay.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. There have been over the course of the episodes, a few incredibly painful, awkward moments. And, I can almost guarantee that the person on the other end of the line did not think it was nearly as awkward as I did. Maybe I'm just too hard on myself in that regard. But I can think of one, and I can't remember what episode it was, but I was trying to sort of throw that bait of like, oh, yeah, we're going to segue into your story now, right? And I sort of said it like that, like I do for most episodes. And he kept saying something like, oh, yeah, I've got a story. And I'm like, yes, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's time for us to tell it.
Yeah.
Like, here we are. And he wasn't quite picking up the hint I was laying down. And I think it was like 3 minutes later we got to the actual story. And I'm sitting there
like
internally freaking out. But that's the name of the game. You roll with the punches.
What's your editing like?
I mean,
pretty much straight to tape, or?
For the most part, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I can think of one time I edited out something that was a little bit offensive.
Okay.
At least I thought it was offensive, and I didn't want people to. Generally, I'm all right with like cursing, right? Like,
sure.
People are going to hear curses; they should be fine with that. Things that if one of my other listeners listened to it and said, "Wow, that hurts," I'm going to edit that out.
Okay, so, that's fair.
Other than that, I want it to be as organic as possible.
Cool.
So I try to do as little editing as I can. There have been a couple where I've had like lag on the Skype video, that sort of thing, and the sound sort of comes in laggy, and I fix that. But in general, organic is what I'm hoping for.
Well, based on the episodes that I've heard so far, I'd say you're nailing it.
I'm trying, and it makes it more fun for me too. I have this script at the beginning of the episodes, but I'm going to lose interest fast if I'm doing the same thing every time. I imagine you get the same thing with your show.
We recorded number 50 last night, and I still don't have an opening banter down.
Oh, that's the point, though, right? Like you sort of,
what we do is I'll press record long before people show up.
It's probably smart.
And then like I'll find some point in the recording where like it seems like it gets interesting here, and then like I'll do a fade in as the theme music fades out, so that there's never really a beginning or an end. Stories from the Trail never ends.
There you go. I love it. But that you say you haven't figured out how the banter goes at the beginning. You just told me how it goes.
Oh, I guess you're right. Yeah.
A system for doing it, but it allows it to be loose enough that you can sort of mix things up with it,
It's all trickery, though. It's all smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, sure. Whatever you want to call it. I think it's clever.
The whole point of podcasting is to make your listeners not know that you're sitting here in your underwear.
Yeah. I mean, I have done. Usually, I'm at my office, so I can't strip down too much, but I'll put on my shorts after work and take off my button-down shirt, and I'm looking out. I'm in an office now, and I'm looking out at a window that sort of looks out over the cubicle jungle that we have here, and coworkers will walk by, and most everyone knows what I'm doing now that I'm on episode 16.
All right.
But there's still a few people floating around who aren't quite aware that I'm doing a podcast. And
that's nice that you get to use your workspace for that.
It's really nice. And it's quiet. I mean, I could do it in my apartment in New York, but there's going to be sirens going by every 2 seconds. Yeah. And the office has a fair amount of equipment I can use too, which is really nice. Just because I work for a university, which for the sake of keeping my job, I will leave unnamed, but
gotcha.
I work for a university, and they have, our department does marketing, that sort of thing. So that if I ever wanted to do something with a camera, they have GoPros, they have, nice, sort of like DSLR cameras. And I've got some of the equipment of my own as well, but it definitely steps up my game to have the backing of an institution behind me.
Yeah, I have, I've got an office in my house, just a corner bedroom converted into an office space.
Nice.
And then in the basement, I have, I've got a corner that's actually treated with soundproofing, and I use that for like if I'm doing voiceover or intros or working on an audiobook. But for the most part, I'm just sitting here in my office with the window open, and sometimes you'll get birds chirping in the background, and that's
nice though.
Yeah, that's fine for what we do.
Birds chirping are great. like a crazy siren going by at decibels that I can't even measure would put a damper on things pretty fast. I'm living the New York life in the most stereotypical sense possible. I live in a tin can apartment with thin walls, and I absolutely love it. It's the lifestyle I want to be living right now. But it is not conducive to clear and efficient sound.
Yeah, or hiking?
Or hiking. It's true. Yeah. The things that I miss most, quiet and hiking. Definitely.
And that's why you daydream about it on
It's true.
Travel for a Loop.
It's true. It's bringing it full circle.
Bringing it full circle.
Bringing it back for the loop.
Bringing it back. I've heard that that's what professionals do, and I'm trying to imitate them as best I can.
You are killing the game. That was professional grade right there.
Cool. Well, I don't have an official sign off either, so we probably faded out a while ago into our theme music. So
that's fine.
Actually, we've gotten pretty good at closing the show, but I have someone else do that for me.
So
co-hosts say all that stuff.
It's better, I think, to sort of be able to switch it up. I don't know. My intro is always sort of the same thing. And my thinking behind it was that the familiarity would breed people coming back.
Yes.
If that makes sense. I don't know if there's any truth to that whatsoever, but
I think there is. I know the shows that I listen to, I enjoy that.
But at the same time, I like the sound of what you're saying, where it can be a little different. You can sort of fade it in at the moment where it just feels right to sort of start things off. Mm-hmm. Whereas with the prescription that I have, it's, you know what you're getting. I guess there's something to be said for that. But
both totally valid styles.
Agreed. You know, that's why they make chocolate and vanilla, as my dear great aunt would say.
I like swirl. Yeah. Hey, this is like a swirl episode, right? We've got your peanut butter all up in my chocolate.
It's true. It's very true. It's, you know, if you can make the best of both worlds and you can get that swirl in there, by all means you should. And we've created something beautiful today.
I think so. Yeah,
definitely. So we got a hot fudge sundae going on up in here.
Well, let's have you on a real episode of the show. We'll get you, have you meet the other hosts and the rest of the online crew, and we'll do it for real.
It sounds great. It sounds like a blast.
All right, cool. I'll be in touch, and we'll figure out how to do that. In the meantime, if people want to listen to your podcast, the best way to find you is?
I host on SoundCloud, actually. So you can find it on SoundCloud, but also the RSS feed is Spotify and iTunes as well. We have a Facebook page at Travel for a Loop, Instagram at Travel for a Loop, Twitter at Travel for a Loop. Admittedly, I am the least savvy with Twitter, but
I can't tweet.
Working on it, you know.
Yep. Cool. All right. Well, I had no problem finding it on Pocket Casts. I just typed in the name and it showed right up. So it should be
perfect.
Easy to find. I hope people check it out.
Me too. Thanks so much. I appreciate you taking the time to reverse the interview around here.
Yeah, I'm glad we did this. This was fun. Thank you.
Perfect. That sounds great. Yeah, no, it's again, I appreciate you giving me some other names to have on as well, and I'm looking forward to coming in and checking out what you guys got. I know that I will be giving your stuff a listen for sure.
Awesome. Thanks again, man.
Thank you. Have a great rest of the night, and we'll be in touch soon.
Cool. Catch you later.
See you later.
Hey, thank you once again for listening to the second half of my conversation with Ryan Bedell. If you have not already done so, I really encourage you to check out the show notes, find those links, go download Travel for a Loop, subscribe to the show. I'm sure that Ryan's going to produce a whole lot more amazing content in the future, and I hope that you and I are both there when it happens. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.